everybody to the San Francisco Poet Speakeasy. Our selected poet today is Indigo. Just a couple announcements before we begin. In appreciation of the owners allowing us to recite poetry here every Saturday afternoon, we greatly appreciate if everyone buys something to eat or something to drink. Also, on Saturday afternoons, children frequently come into the cafe. Please do not recite any poetry or sing any songs that are going to be offensive to children. The covers no longer apply, so if you want to sing a copyrighted song, go ahead and sing it, okay? And that's about all I wanted to say, and we'll begin with our first poet, Buford.
All right. There you go. That's great.
Oh, yes. Wow. Whoa, look at this.
Wow.
Yes.
Really high resolution.
Look.
I have an old chapbook with me, the only chapbook I've ever done, and it was done in 2005 when I was a master's degree student at New College of California, which dropped off the face of the earth a couple of years later.
They lost their best student. There was just nothing they could do.
Hey man, thanks. This is called In Search of the Nocturnal Fusion. This is a really old poem that I actually got published a couple times. In need of an evening rhyme, I searched, it seems forever, beneath a table, between the sheets of my unmade bed. Unconsciously, I opened the door, and standing there silhouetted were the branches and the trunks writing a haiku on the night.
Wow.
Great, John Beacher's coming too.
This is called Bad Girls. And the epigram is Bad Girls, talking about bad, bad girls. That was, of course, the Queen of Disco, Donna Summer. Bad girls, sitting in her Toyota, hair clipped nicely, late 50s, maybe 60. Words coming out in a serious monotone. In Berkeley, approaching the BART station, it's capital B and capital A bright. She says that I should stay away from crazy women, the ones I crave, the ones with the wild spirits, who've had too much love and don't know what to do about it being gone, like me. She sits with her mouth barely moving, the distinguished-looking ventriloquist, making pronouncements about the pomposity of those who I always seem to be excited by, and she's right. Actually, she isn't. It seems so sexy. They have so much, quote, edge. They can burst into emotional flames at any given second. She sits there calmly, says she spends too much money eating out as I finish up my Indian wrap, hold on to the sides that dribble juice, her plain, sensible mouth moving slightly. I go home early, can't sleep, thinking about how she's not one of the bad girls I love. Power. Power stops the powerless. The people on the street proclaiming their independence in an inauspicious way, frightening themselves into thinking they have something to persist for, while a man in a new blue Mercedes is late for his meeting on the latest projected layoffs and goes on thinking that his prosperity is the only thing that matters. His kids in good schools, his partner well fed. In the morning, another man with a gray coat he found in a dumpster on 16th Street forages through the same dumpster for abandoned breakfast, or maybe someone's dinner from the night before, carelessly tossed, fed to the metal box. His thoughts drift to his buddy, the former mail carrier, laid off a decade before, while Bush's army plans the next assault on Iraq. A bulge of money in the country's defense wallet, led by Old W, the smirk on the crowded little features on his face, twitching nervously in the Washington, D.C. elementary classroom, just informed that Al-Qaeda had attacked the United States. He bites the corners of his mouth, reflecting someone who should probably, as poor as he was at that also, go back to Texas and buy himself another baseball team.
Brother Corey, are you this? I thought you were in DPD.
Oh, no, I'm just cleaning out the system.
All right.
This is called, let's face it, all of us would rather not be here. Would rather not have to pick up the newspaper as if it were lead, burden ourselves with all the horrible news, like no presents on Christmas or Hanukkah or wherever we come from, no good news. We look at his or her face, excuse me, the expensive so-called truth, whatever government lackey he or she is, the leaders of the unfree world. Over in Iraq, little kids cry just like they do over here. That's the one thing I'm sure about. There are lots of people who have no money, no mental health facilities, no health care, period, while billions of dollars spent on millions of bombs go off, and people have to worry about keeping their heads attached to their shoulders. I don't want to have to hear about that. Let's face it, the streets are full of people starving and people protesting. The protesters have no money to save the homeless, but their and our voices are trying. We need to bring the women and the men home and retrain them somehow that will lay down their guns permanently. War will never help anybody find peace.
For about 4 minutes.
Okay.
So.
Okay, we'll change courses here. This is about baseball.
All right.
The knothole is full of crazy people. The knothole, or freestanding section of the AT&T Giants baseball stadium, is full of people, at least the regulars, who are unable to work or are paid low salaries, such as instructional aid in the San Francisco schools. The knothole is not really a knothole, but a series of chain-link sections interrupted by a naga hide-covered, outwardly moving section that various groups travel in and out of, mostly to sing the national anthem. We mostly 50-plus-year-old regulars include a retired pants presser, an injured roofer, and often stoned teenagers and young adults, and one underpaid educator. A guy and a woman or two who could be described in an unkind way as crazy, a pothead who lives in a tent in San Francisco Park with his pretty town dog, a man who calls out, "Buddy!" and as well as instructs the opposing team to give in to the Giants. A Georgia-born man with good baseball knowledge and a bipolar woman in her 50s with clipped hair, whose analysis of all things baseball is really astute when she can withstand the bawdiness of the knothole, which includes body put-downs, cursing, of course, of the opposing team's right fielder. When the Giants were winning 2 of the last 3 World Series championships, things were fun, and included an interview of Francis Ford Coppola's cousin, a very lucky yours truly. Now things are quietly but completely, now things are quieter but not completely so, as we loyal fans still come to the park and give the last month of baseball of 2013 a last good cheer.
Yeah.
How much I got left?
You have 2 more minutes left.
2 more minutes, okay. You have to be nice to the people who love you, it's a rule. We aren't putting our hearts on top of yours for fun. It's a tough life lived for the sake of getting together with you on occasional weekends and an odd Wednesday. If I don't try to stay in contact with you, I feel sad. we don't have a good time, and fortunately that doesn't happen too often. I feel sad sometimes without you. Love is a messy proposition, whether I am with you or not. This last one is relates to Putin and his fascism. Headline: Anti-pussy riot, Putin rebuffed by assertively positive Barack Obama. The leader of the free world calls repressive East European leader a, quote, B-I-C-K. All right.
Thank you, sir. And our next poet is Robert.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna sit down, I think.
Did you call me, Frank?
So we missed you, we were worried.
I texted.
I lost my balance. What's called to select this poet's reading here.
Lovely handwriting.
No, I
So he's gonna sing it today?
that's good. Excellent. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
As he always sounds.
All right, since I do not have an after-school student at the moment, what I've been doing is going to the library after school and just writing every night. And I have a couple of poems, well, I have 7 poems. But one in particular that I want to do, and then I'll read something also if I can that's not mine. Last week I read from the work of the great Irish poet Seamus Heaney, and I spent most of the following day and the following 2 days working on a memorial poem about him. And the original version of the memorial poem was a very close copy of W.H. Auden's memorial poem for Yeats in 1939. And I was persuaded by a friend of mine who had been a student of Auden's that didn't work. So I took the best lines from it and came up with a poem that I think does work. And this is called In Memory of Seamus Heaney, died August 30th, 2013. You left us in diminishing summer, the brooks vigorous, swollen and full-throated, airports thronged with homeward wending tourists, foliage in Dublin and Derry just goldening to rust, left us on an otherwise unremarkable day in mild weather, when heat rose in soft tatters from murmuring pavements. In this age when immortality seems assured us all, if only in cyberspace where the faces of the dead linger forever, unchanging, pixelated and luminous, a few thousand perhaps will remember this day, bookmark an obituary, modify a timeline on Facebook. You were modest and approachable, the papers tell us, endured with grace and dignity the packed public readings, journalists, earnest undergraduates seeking approbation. Beneath it all lay Ireland's plain-spoken rural diction, from which you excavated layers of meaning like a farmhand digging peat, the ground below smoky with ancient bones.
Ah, yeah.
Now, if you know Auden's poem about Yeats, there are still echoes of it in there, but it's not real close the way it was. And then this poem, I really thought, I was just about ready to give up on writing poetry earlier this week. I thought, you know, I have been working for 40 years at this, and I'm just no damn good. And Then I wrote this poem, which is a fairly short one, but it seems to me it's one of the best I've ever done. This is about an old churchyard in Boston, Massachusetts. And if you remember, sometimes on Halloween, I read a poem that I wrote years ago about a werewolf's grave. This is the same churchyard. This is called Cutting the Deck. I think abruptly of the yellow moss that clogged the eyes of death's heads in a colonial churchyard in Boston decades ago. The names illegible now as healed scars. The weathered headstones thin, splayed like cards on a gray lawn, save for a few that had fallen to the weather, face down, so as not to tip their hand. Now, Jason and Buford and I were talking about working as instructional aides. We're trying to talk Jason into doing this, although I don't know why. We like Jason. But a couple things I want to say about this. Jason said earlier that he thought from listening to Buford's poems there'd be a lot of material from that, and there is. Every morning when I sign in at work, I open the sign-in book and I think to myself, you know, instructional aids sounds like a disease. But that notwithstanding, I do have a poem about work as well. And this is called These Young Girls. In their high school identity card photos, these young girls, ghetto and nail tough, are abruptly beautiful in a way I've never noticed when dealing with them in class. And I wonder why for a moment, until it strikes me that, posed for the camera, their features, fine cheekbones, wide, unfathomable eyes, are at rest, like faces carved as if in ironwood or cool obsidian. Strangers thus, they reveal an unsuspected grandeur beneath the heaviness of long despair, the endless disfigurement of rage.
Yeah.
I want to do, I think, two more. You guys know what a ristra is? You have to kind of be from the Southwest to know. It's a decoration that's made out of dried chili peppers of various earth tones, and it looks kind of like this huge pine cone that you suspend from your ceiling for no obvious reason. But my parents have one of these things, and I've tried to write about it for a long time, and this is the most recent version of that poem, which my friend Barry edited very nicely for me. Ristra. Dry lantern, obese pine cone, your peppers are lightless flames, mute tongues declaring your strangeness. You dangle from a ceiling in Colorado, sport muted reds and ochres that echo the pigments of the land itself. Your presence here a gesture to placate dust and ice, pine, crag, and dune, places where we who suspended you, though we linger for generations, will always be deemed intruders.
Yeah.
Okay, now, assuming I have time for this, I read from Seamus Heaney last week, and generally, when a major poet dies, what the New Yorker will do is if they have anything by that person that was awaiting publication, they publish it the week after their death with their dates of birth and death below the attribution. And true to form, they had a Seamus Heaney poem which came out this week in the current New Yorker. And as much as I've always loved his poetry, it seems to me that this one is especially fine and also a marvelous thing to kind of cap off his life in poetry. This poem by Seamus Heaney, 1939 to 2013, is called The Guttural Muse. Late summer and at midnight I smelled the heat of the day. At my window over the hotel car park, I breathed the muddied airs off the lake and watched a young crowd leave the discotheque. Their voices rose up thick and comforting as oily bubbles the feeding tench set up that evening at dusk. The slimy tench, once called the doctor fish because his slime was said to heal the wounds of fish that touched it. A girl in a white dress was being courted out among the cars. As her voice swarmed and puddled into laughs, I felt like some old pike all badged with sores, wanting to swim in touch with soft-mouthed life. Isn't that a great thing? It's kind of like a coda to his work.
Right, very nice, very
How
nice.
am I doing on time?
Coming up on 0 minutes.
Okay, that's what I figured. Worked out just about right.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Never lead with the poem by the great poet.
There we go. Time's up.
Perfect.
Okay. And now our selected poet,
Yeah.
Indigo.
You want the mic over here?
Yeah.
Got it? Yeah, good. All right. There you go.
Okay. I don't know whether I get enough poems to get to, but
Excuse me.
I had friends up north who were sitting in trees and everything trying to stake the redwoods a while ago. This is a few years ago. But I wrote a poem for them. It's called The Tree Sitters. There are women named Butterfly and Sunrise who climb high into the ancient redwoods and swinging on frail platforms carried in sections protect the trees. They curl up all night listening to the forest's footsteps, clinging tightly to their lifeline until the tree's strength encompasses them and time stops. A photograph in the morning paper shows Butterfly with focused upward glance of a woman living from her source, her body fluid as a limb. The noise of chainsaws grows loud. Lumbermen look up. They have orders to cut. She feels safer with a tree. She hears its language above arguments of the millionaire who owns the mother soil its roots have grasped, and she's sturdy enough to hold out through storms of this century, Swarth's darkness. Here's a long one called Deer Cliff. Sad. I took your ashes to the woods Monday and dug a hole, kneeling where I once dug humus from under redwood roots when you leaned forth from that rich silt to tell me you loved me. All week you leaned, gifted and full of speech, from that darkness which opened so wide, I saw its vast stormy worlds beneath me for miles. Did you know moments after I buried your crushed bones, a sea serpent 100 feet long with an entourage of sea lions and gulls was spotted by 5 sober men and a woman on the West Marin coast, moving 50 miles per hour inland, close, and then left again? I think he came for you, which makes me wonder what we are with these forms we take up and put down like silk. Cliff, before you died, when I was frantic to find you, in meditation I saw you on a beach at the edge of the universe, and there was a pearl circled by all the irritation of your life. I thought you were all right, and I guess you are. I'm told the pearl is the elixir of life, and only won by great suffering. Next day, I rode to the city in the blitz of that fallout with uncontrolled grief. Your war, our war, and no one survived sounds of licensed murder, ate heart and mind. But what a dream we had when I picked you up from the San Mateo checkpoint. June 9th, pale as pastry, dragging a box of redwood pearls. Who would have guessed we'd walk together so far, or that it would end now? We stopped at the Jackson Cafe at 2 a.m. and I invited you back to San Geronimo. So nervous, I kept you talking till dawn, but you never left, and I watched your face emerge from sleep through a series of transformations each morning. Reptilian, crustacean, dinosaur, fish. Your consciousness went so far back and slowly became mammal and human, and that went on for months. But what you did from those green-gray jade heroin dawns into an entangled wood, a riot of foliage and tangled weed. Here we are visited by an assortment of holy men and saints, you wrote. I accord their spiritual attainment to the vacancy of stairs. I have 2 more pages of this. Seth is marvelously vacated in his being. Ramdas, flighty and ethereal. People come to our hills like flocks returning to a primal roost. Then came the confessions that covered the house with a dark gray cloud for days. How during Operation Murder at age 17, your outfit formed a wedge of violence between North and South Korea, with you at the apex because you were good, bodies piling up for 3 days and nights so high you had to keep moving the guns back and back, and it took 20 years of addiction, crime, insanity, and Synanon asylums, 36 multiple shock treatments, and prison before you could speak. 9 or 10 guys from that crack outfit in San Quentin with you. The captain is stone drunk on 6th Street. You, the heroes, the losers. But when you told me the story of the Turks, isolated on a hill without ammunition, throwing severed heads down on the enemy, and later raping and rampaging through a psycho ward, I crawled out to the woods until Seth, and then Ramdas turned up to help. Seth put up a tent, and Star appeared, Jan Hummingbird, and Dennis and Diane in the small campground. Hosanna formed a band, and we danced and danced. And Cliff, I never saw how rich it was until it was over and came into focus like a photograph. Grief came like a tidal wave with aftershocks and anterior silence. A dream of carrying you over my shoulders down escalating descents. Your weight too heavy, chains thick as any Nazi incineration, a debacle around your neck. Young men tricked out to battle, never to return, no matter how they survive. Carnage piled into a continent gathered between your body and your mind. Words flock like doves to soften this emptiness. Your music won't stop. I was carrying your ashes in heavy traffic over a bridge where San Quentin and its hillside of dumped bodies is in full view. The logic of war, like teeth rising and falling on those closing gates of ruined men. Your last words, Joey, I can't make it up alone on the outside. 10 years later, cut me, and I almost dropped your ashes there in the channel in the pouring rain. Cliff, the minister at your service, has your saxophone. He could be your son. His father was in Korea in San Quentin, as you were. A poet and user. Two days later, I knew you were. Yeah. 2 days days later, I knew you were gone, and everyone shouting, "Bury the body." I'd never done that, and wanted a service, but knew no minister. Was running home to call before they dumped your body with the poor in Potter's Field. Laura said someone should play the saxophone, and Hosanna, just the right person should have your lady at the bell. I missed my bus in the teeth of your death, was trying to believe everything works out together for good. Turned, and there in the doorway of the One Mind temple was Robert Haven. He remembered you. He was a minister and once gave me a violin when mine was stolen. He teaches music to children, so I gave him your saxophone. After a long Indian summer, it rained for this service. We were a talkative procession, streaming down through the panhandle, Laura, Noni, Jean, and Jack, like Paul Blair's. Robert played until it seemed a great angel enveloped us, hillside fuchsias, blackberry, saxophone, trees, and Hosanna singing the spiritual. And I wept when Robert sang the service, and Quincy, age 12 now, held me. We all took hands. Hosanna in a red hat talked of your formality. I spoke of seeing you in alleyways before I knew you, and how women would say, "I've seen that guy. He always stood in doorways, shadowed and observing what you call the world's underbelly." How the little 5-year-old girl in Puerto Vallarta, looking up at us, exclaimed, "You are two flowers." How you went to Pakistan to buy opium legally, and while sitting stoned by the roadside, the British conscripted you into the cholera fighting corps, so that you swabbed arms with alcohol for 3 days and 3 nights, human lines stretching as far as the eye could see, and how that balanced out Operation Murder. I spoke to Ainsnor, my spirit guide, your ally, with his striped burnous and wild eyes, saying over and over, "There is no way you can understand what Cliff is going through, letting go 20 years heroin addiction." Toward me, Joanne behaves as though God were as tangible as an apple. You wrote, "I am happy, and so much so I must find some ailment to treat, some reason to bicker. I don't know how to act. It's hard to be successful, painful to love, discomforting to be happy. I have much to unlearn. Each of our lives was just a preparation for the other, and I thought I could never lose you, that you could find your way back to me, dead drunk in the dark without an address, climbing backyard fences, chased by dogs. No one believes you're gone." Well, after the service, Jean took your ashes to the Pall Mall bar for one last drink.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a brilliant double rainbow over Haight Street that went on. And Cliff, after Hannah and I buried the ashes Halloween, I went up to my old redwood to meditate and saw 2 great angels coming up the path, holding you. It's Cliff. I was excited, but you weren't really there. It was your empty form, holding a red velvet box, which you gave me. It was the Star of David, the Christ star, your last gift.
We have 8 more minutes to go. If you want to-
Let's see what's in there.
Make up a rap tune.
This is my grandfather. The coiled asp of suicide I carry goes back to my grandfather, who hung himself from a punching bag in the attic, and coincides with me, his namesake. My guilt meant as simply as a figure constructed of hairpins. My grandfather, a small man, was named for the biblical Joseph, who saved his life by interpreting dreams. Suicide is one of my roots, and in order to redeem myself, I seem condemned to turn other spirits from that rope, steps to the attic like slots where suicide reached their wires beneath living deadly house ghosts. The attic swinging through voluptuous shadows, swallowing the light. I enter this defeat with my hands tied up in prayers. The old past leads me back as I try to interpret this dream, walking through walls, and no matter how many times they close, I have to keep pushing and pushing them open. I've read it, I've probably heard all this before, but this is Sunset and the Evening Star. While my father was dying, I lived in a van with no address, and each night in my meditation, the evening star would appear in a brilliant red sky, and it spoke. It was my mother reading a poem of death and calling me. Sunset and the Evening Star were the first words I heard entering her house as she was arranging the service with the minister, trying to remember the words of Tennyson's poem, Crossing the Bar. All fall, my father cried when she read it. I dreamed at his bedside. I woke in the van to such a rich and sexual darkness. Just to reach for the salt was an amorous venture, yet I turned to pay my final respects. Our family was cold, affection shy. I had to be coached to tell him how much I loved his singing through childhood, his mandolin and his guitar, his voice a hillside of wind-blown trees singing, travel, travel, little star, in your one-horse circus car, and verse after verse enlivening my curiosity for that gypsy life. He tuned the bells of his sheep so they moved in harmony like a cloud formation down the evening hills. He kept bees and gave me the sun to care for, melting all the sharp edges of the harshness of sex. Grief recedes like a storm cloud release. My body thrown down, letting go of my father, his presence lively as a soft shoe he danced after work. He's still close, only livelier as he was as a youth when we watched the breakup of ice and the Susquehanna River thunder in the night. He stood on the bridge in an overcoat and told me how much he loved the thaw. The pain of two rivers that cross in our town, slowly freezing in the pale blue winter. The birth of each child set him on his knees. He was born on an ironing board on the attic on Murray Street and never went to war. I was having such sensual dreams, a funeral arranged on parallel tracks. I couldn't wait to get back to the van. My body somehow trapped in this weather, endless rain, flooded grass. Yet I still seemed to be dancing. My father's arms reaching out of it all, and his voice in perfect pitch. We were born on opposite days of the year, and we were attached. I was told Gandhi was 16, just married to a 14-year-old bride, and wildly impatient to get back to his teenage wife while he sat at his father's bedside. Pitch and tune combining, I traveled back to my star-crossed circus caravan.
She's exhausted.
Okay, well, I'll let you go.
Please.
You're paid.
Give her a break.
Okay, very nice. Thank you very, very much. I think I'm next.
Well, you like to stand in front of the mic.
This is is a revision to a recent song that I wrote. The song is called Love Explosion. Oh, jambalaya, jambalaya, you set my soul on fire. I've got the notion for a love explosion and a bottle of flat tire. It's a shrimp, chicken, and sausage concoction. Add onions, garlic, tomatoes, and hot sauce. Stir in rice. Slowly add broth. Season to taste with salt, pepper, lots of love, and Creole spice. Salt, pepper, lots of love, and Creole spice. I've got the notion for a love explosion and a bottle of flat tire. It's a shrimp, chicken, and sausage concoction. Jambalaya can't wait. Jambalaya, don't be late. Oh, jambalaya, jambalaya, you set my soul on fire. Next is another song I wrote. I need some audience participation. So whenever you hear the lines, stick to it, you can do it. Just recite that with me, okay? It's called Stick to It. Like Dorothy in the Land of Oz, determined to get back to Kansas. Don't quit, stick to it, you can do it, and it will come true for you. Like bubble gum sticking to the heel of your shoe, don't quit, stick to it, you can do it, and it will come true for you. Like peanut butter sticking to the roof of your mouth, don't quit, stick to it, you can do it, and it will come true for you. Like composing this song, don't quit, stick to it, you can do it, stick to it, you can do it, and it will come true for you. Like Dorothy in the Land of Oz. Next is called Rouler le bon temps. That means the good times roll. Rolling with rigmarole down the Tallahatchie, talking the lingo of gibberish and gobbledygook. He's just a down-and-out soul, strumming years of worry and woe on the old banjo. Rolling down Mississippi's Tallahatchie, rouler le bon temps. Rolling down Mississippi's Tallahatchie, rouler le bon temps. 3 years ago, there was a wonderful exhibit at the Legion of Honor of the Impressionist artists. So this is a series of poems I did on some of those paintings at the Legion of Honor. It's called, this first one is called Manet's Fifer Boy. This is one of Manet's paintings. Sad Fifer boy, dressed in brass buttons, blue wool waistcoat, burgundy wine trousers, angel white silk scarf, and French military hat, plays La Marseillaise on his shiny new fife, against a stark gray background foreshadowing his future. Sad Fifer boy, the salon rejected you. They said you were too contemporary and unconventional. Sad Fifer boy, we're waiting for you to lay down your fife. We're waiting for you to step out of Manet's painting and to step into the 21st century. Sad Fifer boy plays the Marseillaise on his shiny new fife against the stark gray background, foreshadowing his future. Sad Fifer boy, we're waiting for you. The next is a Monet painting called 1000 French Flags. Monet's painting celebrates l'Exposition Universelle de 1878. A burst of color in motion, a flurry of blue, white, and red brush strokes, splash and impression of 1000 French flags fluttering above the mass of figures on the boulevard below, and the painting comes brilliantly alive. Monet's Rue Montague. The next is a painting of Renoir. It's called The Girl on the Swing. How indistinct and carefree is she, Renoir's girl on the swing. It must be French Impressionism. This is another painting by Claude Monet. It's called La Gare de Saint-Lazare, the station of Saint-Lazare. Train arrives at La Gare de Saint-Lazare. You and I and Claude Monet are on board. The station is full of noise, screeches, and whistles, audible through the confusion of the clouds of gray and blue smoke. Monet's paintbrush represents not only the movement, the color, and the activity, but also the jubilation. It's a pictorial symphony. Train arrives at La Gare de Saint-Lazare. You and I and Claude Monet are on board. Next is another painting done by Renoir called Portrait of Charles Lecoeur. La Bonne Vie, Renoir meets Charles Lecoeur while painting in the forest of Fontainebleau. An admirer of Renoir, egotistic liqueur proudly poses for the painter, dressed in white vested suit, black bow tie, Maurice Chevalier straw hat with cigarette in hand. They become lifelong friends and members of the Paris Mutual Admiration Society, with exclusive membership of two, Renoir et liqueur, La Bonne Vie. The next is a poem, it's a poem, but it's about a painting by Raffaele of the Absinthe Drinkers of 1881. It's called Dancing with the Green Fairy. The Absinthe Drinkers, a sensation in 1881 and a sensation today. Raffaele's gritty image of the poverty-stricken wrecks of the Bohemian culture shows suffering in black brushstrokes of melancholy. The green goddess became the painter's and writer's elixir of life and addiction. The heavy absinthe drinkers had an inclination to violence, suicide, and insanity, dancing with the green fairy to the end of night. Raffaelle's painting excelled at capturing the coarse milieu of the Parisian banlieue, the outskirts and outcasts of Paris, dancing with the green fairy to the end of night. And my final poem is based on a painting of an American artist during the Impressionist period. His name was Sargent, called Caminita. A popular Spanish singer and dancer who enthralled audiences throughout 19th century Europe and America. Sargent's elegant portrait recreates the dramatic vantage point with seeing through the audience's eyes. Her luminous smile and fiery Spanish eyes radiate self-confidence. Sargent's signature bravura brushstrokes capture the flash of light as it glimmers across her dazzling, bejeweled gold evening dress. She's ready to step out of the painting. She's ready to step out of the painting, dance and sing once more. Thanks. Okay, and our next poet will be Ray.
Just poems that I read before, maybe some of them not too often. The first poem is entitled Mestizo-Gajic Kabbalah. Mestizo-Gajic Kabbalah. Atomic theory has its surrealistic bouquets of flaring atoms, now systematized, now enumerated and lettered in the periodic table of the elements. Its sequent thesis shares similarities with symmetric patterns of the Kabbalah's mystic numerology, wherein the universe is the alchemic combination of Hebrew letters and numbers, reading from right to left. So maybe the Earth's far-flung radiance of glory reading, this universal dance of atoms and cosmic explosion are, after all, derived from original Hebrew letters, primordial letters of the Kabbalah, spelling out the mystic white buffalo, its sinews and signets, its sacred signature, its holy penumbra of talismanic flames, enshrined in dark matter night, awaiting you, the modern mystagogue. Yeah, thank you very much. This poem is entitled A Violinist Floats to the Moon, Flowers. I dream a galaxy where light travels slower than sound, and Bach fugues are prismatic congealed light, crystalline shimmering ice caves of infinite reflections, refractions, colors. And I dream a second galaxy, a kind of cosmic calliope playing only atonal music of early Schoenberg. The sounds as if psychedelic colors, smells, all sensations bypassing mentation, striking brain, body out of nowhere. And someone quite knowledgeable tells me his dream. This universe's possible 100,000 subatomic particles are sequentially played strings, vibrating as string instruments of chamber music. Now, string instruments playing a symphony. Now reverberating strings playing the mind of God. Cosmic mind resonating through 11-dimension hyperspace. Dreaming last night, I see a curious Chagall painted universe. The whole cosmos, a pair of lovers, swimming the sky. A violinist floating to the moon. Flowers. Thank you. This last one, I haven't read this for a while. This is, I was reading Mayakovsky, and this is one of the poems that I read during that time, referring to Mayakovsky, great Russian poet, great Russian futurist, Vladimir Mayakovsky. Wonderful poet. This is entitled, Poet Mayakovsky Examines the Atomic Chart and God. In my tiny Moscow apartment room, my huge poet's body, he was 6'6", 7", Thomas Wolfe, 6 foot, yeah, anyway, so I'll start over. In my tiny Moscow apartment room, my huge poet's body bends toward a book open at the periodic table of the elements. A single electric light bulb seems to emit a sticky yellow water swimming with cigar smoke. It's midnight. Mildew, mottled walls with their mold breath lean over me to spy on my latest poetic alchemy. I, Mayakovsky, blow cigar smoke rings of solar system as I read with fascination the atomic chart, its colors, letters, its colors, letters, and numbers, spelling out the blueprint of this beautiful, bizarre universe of blue. The infinite molecular phenomena of the cosmos are reduced to an ingenious lattice of 100 atoms from which everything is derived. God, it appears, is an amazing mathematician and systematizer of Latinate alphabets. After some pondering and more cigar smoking, I decided that I, poet Mayakovsky, the ordained redeemer of earthly love, must address this scientific God of the universe. This God who's so literate, so mathematical. I tell God to step aside. I, the poet, shall outdo you, God. I'm going to create a universe with my own letters and numbers. It shall be a humane universe. Now I'm God. Now God's name is Vladimir Mayakovsky.
All right. Okay, and our next poet will be Jason.
Well.
Great job, Rick.
So this one, there's, yeah, I don't know if I'll use it, we'll see. So this has nothing to do with anybody present.
It's a good disclaimer.
Oh, right, now we're all thinking which one of us.
Yeah.
Right, who's here, who's not here?
No, I don't have anything published, so this is like kind of my sour grapes poem.
Sour grapes.
Acceptance. If my poems are not to my satisfaction when I go to read them, perhaps if they were published, that would make them better. Aren't the published poems the best ones? Isn't that why we want to know, so we can pay attention to that one? If poems were paintings and they had hung in the Louvre, I'd want to know. I'd really pay attention. What if they were like Jackson Pollock, covered with words spilled from a dictionary like paint dribbled from a can, splattering the pages? How do they know this one is the one that's art? the one to hang in the Louvre. Stop, the rabble say. Give me a picture instead, a photograph even, something I can see. Like clouds march triumphantly. No wimpy wisps. They must be tall, billowy things with lots of detail. Look like they exploded. Across azure sky. Yep, Wikipedia says azure is commonly compared to the sky. Accurate. Hawks circle in stark silhouette. Wow, wildlife. Maybe a little Native American. And if it's published, now there's a real poem. But it didn't know to say. The hawks keep circling because they're trying to decide whether we're tasty mice. Finding out too much. Oh no, I didn't know. It's going to be bad. Sure, I can hope. We can all hope. But again and again, it plays out the same. Sure, there's a few made it work for quite a while, civilizations. But it ain't the road we're going down. You, me, we're all. I don't mean to be alarmist, but I thought it'd last my lifetime anyway. I'm too old now. What am I going to do? At least if I had a painless suicide pill, I could spare myself if the time comes. The desperate struggle, roving gangs and warlords, long days of slow starvation, wasting away. Along the same vein. Worse news, not new. Eating air maybe is all. Why expect more as population grows? How can it not be obvious what happens again and again? But as it has been said, humans are humans. Repeat the same things. Isn't real estate up again? So it'll go up more. Who wants to be left out? But can it go up still more? Better be cautious. But it does go up still more. Too late now. But it still goes up more. Okay, have to get in at any cost, if we can. Now, before it's too late. Finally we're in. Crash again. We eat and multiply. We get richer and consume. Bounty can never end. How can we stop? Can't go back to horses. Too much demand. Too few resources. Must survive. Must fight at any cost. But if they take it all away, why bother? Even less, even less, even less. Unimaginable to happen at its crescendo. It happens so fast. It's not decline. It's called collapse.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
Whoa. Jason, you're on the roll.
Yeah.
No, here, well, anyway, I've read this before. First world. Jars of honey overflow in gooey sweetness, running in rivulets, golden streams ponding on the floor. Nice to taste, thick to swim in, suffocating to dive in. Too much to live on, overwhelming to gorge on. Pretty to see through, avoiding swarms of bees negotiating narrow passageways through the hive. Somewhere is an opening, slogging to find it. Smell freshness of air with no smell, coolness of draft on face. See brightness of shafts of sun breaking through green leaves all around. Breathe deep in relief and joy, free of stickiness. Begin a simpler, happier life.
Yeah.
So this, I don't know, I just never get to this, and maybe I never will, so I'll just try it. And then I'll decide whether to throw it away or not. Insoluble. Woman speaks inspiringly in ceremony, makes medicine gift, because it is what is hardest for her to give up. Necklace given by her mother, client for the daughter she doesn't have, lives in intentional community. Overpopulation a problem, I claim. Oh no, we just need to be creative, she says. Well, if we had only 1 billion people, we'd probably be okay. No, it depends how people live, she disagrees. Okay, maybe not if they were all first world, I concede. Population almost tripled in the last 50 years. What if it triples again, 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 and again, I say? Since exponential growth she seems to not understand. Then we'd outstrip our resources, thinking she would surely agree. No, we just need to be creative. At some point, there wouldn't be enough energy input from the sun to feed all of us. Deer on an island with no predators eventually disappeared because they ate everything. But she's having none of it, not of there being any limit, to my dismay. Could I be the one who is wrong? If we had 800 billion instead of 8, maybe we'd have fusion reactors and banks of light because the sun was not enough, growing bacteria for food underground. Or it could be when everyone gets to be first world, population would decline. But China went a different route, decided not to wait for that. In one province, 3 children means no irrigation water for you. Harsh. And where would they be if they hadn't? How harsh would that be? Let's say she's right. Let's go with creativity. That bad future may never materialize, except it already has. And the creativity she believes in isn't here when it's already needed, and may never materialize either. So why count on one and not the other? Does she know species are extinguishing, reefs are disappearing, rainforests are disappearing, glaciers are lost, fisheries are in trouble, reservoirs are filling with salt, major rivers don't even reach the ocean, aquifers are drawing down, irrigated soil is alkalizing, carrying capacity of the planet past and degrading? How can she not see overpopulation as a problem, not acknowledge a limit to resources? Do we wait for billions in scrambling misery to say, I told you so? Could it be less population wouldn't cure it? That even if there were only 100 million of us, we'd still consume too much? Build huge mansions, each one? Maybe. But we wouldn't starve.
We've got 1 more minute.
Well, okay. You're so smart. He says, we can't solve our problem with the mind. The mind is the problem. Which impresses people in his venue with his insight. Grates on me. I know where he got it. He says it out of context. A jukebox parrot spitting out a quote, showcasing his full wisdom from his mind, from his problem. My irritation from my problem, my mind.
Thank you, Gibson. Okay. And our next poet is Joey. Up next, Joey.
Joey, oh, thank you. Right. No, it's still, I could always want
I should have called you earlier because it's the first time you've been here. Yeah.
How you been, Stuart?
Just coming up.
Good to see you.
You're looking cool for the summer.
Yeah, grab it while it's here. Musical break.
Okay,
We got a little bit of a buzz here, Joey, but.
It's all right. I'm just gonna, one or two short tunes.
okay, Joey, since this is your first time at the Speakeasy, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right, thank you.
You're coming up after Stephen.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
I'm Joey, also known as Nightmare Joey, the country blues outlaw. I'm originally out of Providence, Rhode Island. I know a little something about that old churchyard in Boston. I think it's the old North Church, where the werewolf was. I've been through there once or twice.
Yeah, that's right.
That's where it is, right? The old North Church?
Yeah, that's right.
I'm a regular at the Sacred Grounds on Thursday night. I do traditional blues, country blues, Cajun blues, Americana. I am a poet. I have hundreds and hundreds of poems. I didn't bring any with me. I didn't think I'd be this up in the hate today, but coming by in the hate, I should stop by at the Sacred Grounds, pay my respects to everybody, and just throw something in the bucket here. Trying to do a little something called Congo Square. I'm from the Mission District, 1624. I'm a tenant organizer in the Tenderloin Housing Clinic, representing as many as 6,000 residents. I'm a tenant organizer at the Old Sound. Played in different venues all throughout the Bay Area over the years. I've been an actor in a play called Hotel Voices that had 3 strong showings in the Bay Area. Like this superstition. There's some kind of something. Oh, I'm down here. This is a traditional bayou song. Like this superstition. There's some kind of something. Go downstairs. It's an old-time tradition. When they play their drums in Congo Square. Well, you can hear them in the distance. Yeah. Oh, folks in the playroom. They says a prayer. Or you can hear them in the distance. The old folks in the they says a prayer. 'Cause they respect tradition. The things they carry in Congo Square. That's when the voodoo peoples come up. When they punch in Congo Square. Yeah, voodoo peoples. eyes was not believing it. When I seen that, but I could not turn this away. My eyes was not believing it. I seen that. I could not turn this away. Had that mojo in motion. I seen him dancing trance. We're dancing naked. Might be superstition. There's some kind of something. Might be superstition. It's some kind of something. No, the people's respects tradition. The kind we carry on. The kinds they carry on. In Carlos Square. I'll play one more, a little more local. See if I can, I've been back and forth here in San Francisco since the 1960s. First time I was here, I'm 63, first time I was here was when I escaped from reform school in Rhode Island. That was back in 1966, and in July of 1967, I was right up on Haight Street running around in bare feet, denims, you know, I just turned 17 years old. I stood for 6 years. I've been back and forth over the decades. So I've been somewhat embedded here in the city over the decades. This one is about Golden Gate Park. Back in the 80s, I happened to live in the Poor People's Projects, AKA Golden Gate Park. So this is, I composed a little song about it, a little blues song. I'll play it in A instead of C. I slept in Golden Gate Park. Said to myself, slept in Golden Gate Park. Ground was my mattress. And my pillow was a rock. Sleeping in Golden Gate Park. I know I'm sleeping. Been sleeping out in the cold and rain. Been sleeping Oh, in the golden ring. Back is all stiff, my knees are in pain. Sleeping's in Golden Gate Bar. Clothes is all dirty and I can't give me no job. Yes, sir, my clothes is all dirty. I can't give me no job. And my neck's a nail, yeah. It's coming from food not bomb. Spanish what in Golden Gate Bomb. Only friend I got, yeah. There's a raccoon in a tree. His name is Little Joey. Only friend I got, yeah. There's a raccoon in a tree. Seems to be the only ones, yeah, who really understands me. I slept in Golden Gate Bar. Said last night, yeah. Slept in Golden Gate Bar. Ground was my mattress. My pillow was a rock. Said last night, I slept in Golden Gate. Thank you. I still watch Raiders with the braces, so I deal with it. Hey, listen.
And our next poet will be Stephen.
Barbara, what do you have to do to turn off the camera?